The aircraft stood beside me is a soon-to-be-rebuilt Supermarine Swift, beginning life as the Supermarine Type 510. The Swift was hurried into service at the insistence of the Royal Air Force, the RAF being keen to see a swept-wing fighter enter service, given the performance of aircraft like the MiG-15 and F-86 over Korea. The Type 510 project began in the post-war years, and this aircraft largely resembles the Supermarine Attacker, an aircraft already in service with the Fleet Air Arm, though this has a swept wing. Its maiden flight made it the first British aircraft with a swept wing and a swept tailplane, and later trials would also make it the first aircraft, not only in Britain but in the world, to land and take off from an aircraft carrier. Britain's involvement in the Korean War led to them ordering aircraft from both Hawker and Supermarine, with the Swift entering production as the Swift F Mark I in 1952, with the Rolls-Royce Nene engine that had powered the Type 510 now replaced by a Rolls-Royce Avon. The engine presented a number of early difficulties. The early Swifts had a wider fuselage to accommodate the wider Nene engine, and rather than redesign the fuselage before entering production, they just put an underpowered Avon engine into the aircraft. It also resulted in the armament being reduced from 4 Aden cannons mounted in the wings to 2 Aden cannons mounted just under the intakes. 18 of the F1 type would be produced. The re-addition of 2 extra cannons to bring it up to 4 would create the F2 variant. This brought about more issues, particularly requiring structural modifications for the extra ammunition of 2 extra Aden cannons. This highlighted how underpowered the aircraft was. The F3 and F4 variants worked towards resolving the poor power issues with the addition of reheat, and this helped the F4 to break the world absolute speed record in September of 1953, achieving a speed of 735 miles per hour, 8 miles per hour faster than a Hawker Hunter F3. Despite being into the F4 variant, it was the F1 that entered service with 56th Squadron of the Royal Air Force in February 1954. The issues with the type led to a number of restrictions being imposed on its use, particularly around top speed and altitude ceiling. The type was grounded in August after a number of accidents related to control surface issues. These restrictions were relaxed a few days later after F2s replaced the F1 variants that were in service. However, 2 further accidents saw the type immediately grounded once again, and the acceptance by the RAF that the Swift would never be fit for frontline combat service, and the type was relegated to a low-level reconnaissance role. The order to withdraw the fleet was given. The Hawker Hunter was now firm favourite of the RAF, and the Swift would be relegated to the FR5, a low-level reconnaissance version. Supermarine had made an attempt to address the early issues through the F4, but the inability to ignite the afterburner at altitude in an interceptor was a damning blow. The Swift actually performed well as a reconnaissance aircraft, seeing operation with 3 RAF squadrons. The lengthened nose held a wealth of camera equipment, and the stress of demanding low-level flight left little punishment on the airframe. The Swift beat a number of its NATO counterparts in 1957 and 1959 as the group hosted a competition, Royal Flush, to compare aircraft in the reconnaissance role. A final attempt at a fighter variant was made with the F7 derivative, the aircraft being equipped with a radar in its extended nose cone and early fire-flash air-to-air missiles. Despite not entering RAF service, the F7 provided useful information on the performance of air-to-air missiles in a test and evaluation role. The aircraft standing beside me is the last of the 14 F7 variants to be produced. This aircraft was used in a test and evaluation role at RAF Valley in North Wales and for braking trials at Cranfield until 1967. She's been dismantled since the 1980s, but efforts are now underway to see this last surviving F7 somewhat rebuilt.